Part for the days following the attack on the grove were tense. The team retreated to the resistance camp, shaken but alive. The loss of the ancient forest weighed heavily on all of them, especially Mia, whose anger burned brighter than ever. She paced back and forth in the central tent, her machete resting against her shoulder as she muttered curses under her breath. "They'll pay for this," she growled. "Every last one of them." Clara sat nearby, trying to calm her down. "We need to focus," she said softly. "The council won't listen to rage. They need facts." Mia stopped pacing and turned to face her, her eyes blazing. "Facts? You think facts will stop them from destroying what's left?" "The council doesn't care about facts. They care about profit." Alex stepped in before things escalated further. "Mia's right about one thing: we can't afford to lose hope. We also can't let our emotions cloud our judgment. The grove wasn't just a piece of forest. It was evidence. That Earth is more than what they think it is. And those symbols, they're important. Have to figure out what they mean." Emma nodded, still studying the photos she'd taken of the carvings before the attack. "I've never seen anything like them. They're not human-made. Maybe they're connected to the strange things we've been experiencing. The hums, the whispers, the shadows." Ryan leaned against the wall of the tent, arms crossed. "You're saying aliens are involved now? Seriously?" "No," Emma replied, shaking her head. "I'm saying something bigger is at play here. Something we don't understand yet. If we want answers, we need to keep looking." Their next lead came unexpectedly. That night, as the team gathered around a small fire outside their tent, Clara mentioned an anomaly she'd noticed during their earlier scans of the Arctic Circle. "There's something buried beneath the ice," she explained. It showed up as a faint energy signature. "At first I thought it was interference, but now—" She trailed off, glancing at Emma. "Now you think it's connected to the symbols?" Alex asked. "It's possible," Clara admitted. "If there's technology or artifacts hidden there, it could explain a lot." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "You're talking about breaking protocol. The council didn't authorize us to go digging around in restricted zones." "We're already breaking protocol," Alex countered. "And besides, do you really think they'd tell us the truth if we asked?" Ryan didn't answer, but his silence spoke volumes. "All right, let's do it. But if we get caught, I'm blaming you." The journey to the Arctic was brutal. The ship struggled against icy winds and blinding snowstorms, forcing Ryan to use every ounce of his piloting skill to keep them steady. When they finally landed, the landscape stretched endlessly before them, a vast frozen wasteland under a pale gray sky. The cold was biting, even through their thermal suits, and the silence was deafening. Using Clara's data, they located the source of the energy signature, deep within the ice. It took hours of drilling and clearing away layers of frost before they uncovered the first signs of something unnatural as smooth. Metallic surface gleaming faintly beneath the snow. "This isn't natural," Emma murmured, running her gloved hand over the material. "It's too perfect." As they dug further, the structure began to take shape. It was massive, far larger than any of them had anticipated. Towering walls of polished metal rose from the ice, etched with intricate patterns that matched the symbols they'd seen in the grove. The air around them grew warmer, almost unnaturally so, and a low hum filled the space, vibrating through their bones. "What is this place?" Clara whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know," Alex replied, his eyes wide with awe. "But whatever it is, it's been here for a long time." Inside, the structure was even more astonishing. The walls pulsed faintly with light, casting shifting patterns across the floor. Strange devices lined the corridors, humming softly as if waiting to be activated. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal, its surface covered in the same alien script. Emma approached it cautiously, her tablet in hand. "These symbols, they're instructions," she said after a moment. "Or maybe warnings. I can't tell yet." Clara frowned. "Warnings about what?" Before Emma could answer, Ryan accidentally brushed against one of the devices. Instantly, the room came alive. Lights flared brighter, and the hum grew louder, resonating through the walls. A holographic projection appeared above the pedestal, showing images of Earth throughout its history. From its formation billions of years ago to the rise of humanity and the subsequent environmental devastation, this is incredible. Alex breathed, staring at the display. It's like a record of everything that's happened. Emma studied the projections intently. Look closer. These aren't just images. They're simulations models predicting future outcomes based on current trends. As they watched, the simulation shifted, showing Earth spiraling into chaos. Temperatures soared, oceans boiled away, and entire continents were swallowed by rising seas. Then, abruptly, the scene changed again. This time, Earth stabilized, its ecosystems recovering as humans adopted sustainable practices. But the transition wasn't smooth. It required sacrifice, struggle, cooperation on a global scale. It's showing us both paths, Clara realized. What happens if we fail? And what's possible if we succeed? Ryan shook his head, visibly unsettled. Why would someone leave this here? Who built it? Emma hesitated, her gaze fixed on the symbols. Maybe it wasn't meant for us. Maybe it's a message from whoever came before. As they continued exploring, the team discovered more chambers, each containing fragments of knowledge about Earth's past and its potential future. One room held samples of extinct species preserved in stasis, while another housed advanced tools designed to repair damaged ecosystems. It was clear that whoever had created the structure understood the planet's fragility and sought to protect it, but not everything they found was comforting. In a darkened corner of the facility, they stumbled upon a series of logs written in the same alien script. With Emma's help, they translated parts of it, revealing chilling details about planetary thresholds and cycles of collapse. According to the logs, Earth wasn't the first world to face such challenges. Others had fallen victim to similar fates, unable to adapt quickly enough to survive. This feels like a test, Alex said quietly. Like Earth's being judged not just by the Council, but by something much older. Clara nodded, her expression grim. And if we don't pass, we might not get another chance. By the time they left the structure, the weight of what they'd learned pressed heavily on all of them. The discovery raised more questions than answers. But one thing was certain. Earth's fate was tied to forces far beyond human comprehension. As they boarded the ship and prepared to return to the Council, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The symbols seemed to linger in his mind, glowing faintly like embers in the darkness. Whatever awaited them next, he knew they couldn't face it alone. Humanity's survival depended not only on their ability to adapt, but also on their willingness to confront truths they weren't ready to accept. And somewhere deep inside, Alex wondered if they truly deserved the second chance they were fighting for, if Earth's story was destined to end the same way as the others. This completes part 4 of the story. Let me know if you'd like to proceed with additional sections. Part 1. The room was silent, except for the faint hum of machinery and the occasional shuffle of papers. Alex Carter sat stiffly in his chair, his fingers tapping nervously on the table in front of him. He glanced at Clara Monroe, who sat beside him with her usual calm demeanor, though he noticed her knuckles were white as she gripped the edge of the table. Across from them, a panel of 7 individuals, members of the Galactic Council, stared down from their elevated seats, their faces unreadable behind shimmering holographic displays. It wasn't every day that Earth's fate was debated in such a formal setting. The Council had convened to determine whether humanity's home planet would be classified as Class 13 or Class 14, a decision that could shape the future of billions. A Class 13 designation meant Earth was still considered habitable but fragile, requiring strict regulations to prevent further damage. On the other hand, a Class 14 classification labeled it a Deathworld, making it off-limits for colonization, trade, and even most forms of scientific research. For Alex and Clara, both scientists dedicated to preserving what little remained of Earth's ecosystems, this hearing felt like everything they had worked for hanging by a thread. Dr. Carter, One of the council members finally spoke, her voice sharp and mechanical. You have been called here today because your recent findings suggest significant environmental degradation on Earth. Can you explain why we should consider maintaining its current status as Class 13 instead of moving forward with reclassification? Alex swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the question settle over him like a heavy blanket. He cleared his throat before speaking, trying to keep his voice steady. Yes, Counselor Vera, he began. While it is true that Earth has suffered extensive ecological harm due to human activity, much of which I will detail shortly, there are also promising signs of recovery. Humanity has developed technologies aimed at reversing some of the damage carbon. Capture systems, large-scale reforestation projects, and ocean cleanup initiatives. These efforts demonstrate our commitment to restoring balance. He paused, glancing briefly at Clara, who gave him an encouraging nod. Her confidence bolstered him, and he continued. Moreover, Earth remains home to billions of people who depend on its resources for survival. Reclassifying it as a death world would cut off access to critical aid and support from the galactic community, leaving those populations vulnerable. We believe that with proper oversight and collaboration, Earth can transition back to a stable state. Counselor Vera raised an eyebrow, her expression skeptical. And yet, Dr. Carter, data provided to us shows rising global temperatures, mass extinctions, and widespread pollution levels far exceeding safe thresholds. How do you propose addressing these issues when historical trends indicate consistent failure on humanity's part? Clara leaned forward slightly, deciding it was time to step in. With respect, Counselor, she said, her tone measured, but firm. History does not always dictate the future. Yes, humanity has made mistakes, catastrophic ones, but learning from those errors is part of growth. Our species is capable of remarkable innovation when faced with challenges. For instance, just last year, breakthroughs in biotechnology allowed us to revive several endangered species thought lost forever. That kind of progress should not be dismissed lightly. A murmur rippled through the council chamber, and Alex could see some members exchanging glances. Clara's words seemed to resonate, at least with a few of them. Encouraged, he added, "We understand the gravity of the situation, but labeling Earth as a death world risks abandoning it entirely, cutting off any chance for redemption. Isolation would only accelerate its decline. Instead, we ask for an opportunity to prove that change is possible." Another council member, a tall man with piercing blue eyes, interjected, "Dr. Monroe, Dr. Carter, let us assume for a moment that we grant Earth another chance. What guarantees can you offer that humanity won't revert to its old ways once immediate pressure subsides? After all, history shows patterns of complacency following periods of reform." Clara hesitated, searching for the right words. This was the crux of the matter, the trust issue. Humanity's track record was undeniably poor, and no amount of optimism could erase centuries of exploitation. Still, she refused to give up hope. There are no absolute guarantees, she admitted, but accountability must play a role. By working closely with the Council and adhering to strict guidelines, we can ensure transparency and measurable progress. Additionally, grassroots movements around the world are demanding action. People are waking up to the reality of their impact on the planet. Change may be slow, but it is happening. The Council fell silent again, deliberating quietly among themselves. Alex took the opportunity to study the room, noting how vast and impersonal it felt. The walls shimmered with holographic projections displaying graphs, maps, and images of Earth's deteriorating landscapes. It was surreal to see his home reduced to statistics and visuals, stripped of its beauty and complexity. He thought about the forests he used to hike in as a child, now replaced by barren fields. The oceans where he'd once swum, now choked with plastic waste. And yet, despite all the loss, there were moments of resilience, wildflowers blooming. In cracked pavement, fish returning to cleaned rivers, birds nesting in urban parks. Those small victories fueled his determination to fight for Earth's survival. Finally, Counselor Vera addressed them again. "Very well," she said, her tone softer, but still authoritative. "We will take your arguments under consideration. However, be aware that the burden of proof lies heavily on your shoulders. You will need to provide concrete evidence, not just promises, if you wish to sway our decision. Alex nodded, relief washing over him. Rejected their case? Thank you, counselor, he replied. We won't disappoint. As they left the chamber, Alex and Clara exchanged a look of cautious optimism. They knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but they were ready to face whatever challenges came their way. Earth's fate hung in the balance, and they were determined to tip the scales in its favor. Outside, the sky stretched endlessly above, them dotted with stars that represented countless worlds beyond their own. Somewhere out there, other civilizations thrived or struggled, each navigating its own path through the cosmos. For now, though, Alex and Clara's focus remained firmly on the pale blue dot they called home. Whatever happened next, they vowed, to stand together for Earth, for humanity, and for the slim but precious chance at redemption. This completes part 1 of the story. Let me know if you'd like to proceed with additional sections. Part 2, the morning after the hearing. Alex and Clara stood in a dimly lit briefing room aboard the Council's orbital station. The air smelled faintly of recycled oxygen, a reminder that they were far from Earth's natural atmosphere. Around them, holographic screens displayed maps of the planet, highlighting regions marked in red areas deemed too dangerous or unstable for human habitation. Their mission was clear: gather evidence to prove Earth still had potential for recovery. It wasn't just about saving their home. It was about proving humanity could rise above its mistakes. Joining them were 2 others assigned to the team. Ryan Mitchell, a pilot with sharp features and an easygoing smile, leaned casually against the wall, his arms crossed. He had a reputation for being fearless, but there was something guarded in his expression, as if he carried secrets he wasn't ready to share. Next to him stood Emma Doyle, a linguist whose quiet demeanor masked a sharp intellect. Her dark hair was tied back neatly, and she flipped through a tablet filled with notes on Earth's endangered languages. Both were crucial to the mission, though neither seemed particularly thrilled about working together. "All right," Clara began, breaking the silence. She pointed to the screen showing a sprawling desert once known as the Sahara. "This is where we'll start. Over the past century, it's expanded dramatically due to rising temperatures and deforestation. If we can find signs of regeneration efforts here, it might strengthen our case." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Regeneration? In a place like that? You're optimistic, aren't you?" Clara shot him a look. "Optimism isn't the point. We need proof that recovery is possible. That means looking closely at areas where people are trying to make a difference." Alex nodded in agreement. "And it's not just about plants or animals. We're documenting everything: the ecosystems, the communities, the technology being used. Every piece matters." Emma finally spoke up, her voice soft but firm. "I'll focus on how these changes affect local cultures. Language often reflects a society's relationship with its environment. If we see shifts in how people communicate about nature, it could indicate broader behavioral changes." Ryan smirked. "Sounds like a lot of talking while the rest of us do the heavy lifting." Emma frowned but didn't respond. Instead, she turned back to her tablet, clearly unbothered by his comment. Clara sighed, sensing the tension already building within the group. They didn't have time for petty arguments. Not when so much was at stake. The journey to Earth began hours later. Their ship, a sleek vessel designed for atmospheric entry, descended through thick layers of smog that blanketed the planet. As they approached the surface, Alex pressed his face against the window, staring out at the barren expanse below. What had once been vibrant landscapes now looked like scars, a patchwork of gray and brown, stretching endlessly in every direction. Even the sky seemed sickly, tinged orange from pollution. When they landed, the heat hit them immediately. Air was dry and oppressive, making it hard to breathe without masks filtering out dust and toxins. Clara adjusted hers carefully, then motioned for the others to follow. A small research outpost awaited them a few kilometers away, nestled near the edge of what used to be a thriving forest. Now, only skeletal trees remained, their branches twisted and blackened. "This place gives me the creeps," Ryan muttered. As they trudged across the cracked earth, "Feels like the end of the world." It might be, Emma replied quietly. But maybe it's also the beginning of something new. Her words lingered in the air, unanswered. No one wanted to think too deeply about what that meant. At the outpost, I met Dr. Lena Brooks, a biologist overseeing reforestation efforts in the region. Her face was sunburnt, and her hands were calloused from years of manual labor. Despite her exhaustion, she greeted them warmly, eager to show off her work. She led them to a greenhouse tucked behind the main building, where rows of saplings grew under artificial lights. These are native species, she explained, pointing to the tiny plants. We're using advanced genetic techniques to speed up their growth cycles. Once they're strong enough, we plant them outside and monitor their progress. Alex knelt beside one of the saplings, running his fingers gently over its leaves. How successful has it been? He asked. Lena hesitated before answering. Complicated. Some survive, others don't. The soil is toxic in many places, and water is scarce. But we keep trying. Every tree that takes root is a victory. Her determination inspired them, even Ryan, who usually kept his emotions in check. For the first time since arriving, he seemed genuinely interested in what they were doing. You really think this can work? He asked. I have to believe it can, Lena replied. Otherwise, what's the point? Over the next few days, the team worked tirelessly alongside Lena and her crew. They collected samples of soil, water, and plant tissue, analyzing them for signs of improvement. Clara spent hours interviewing locals who lived near the outpost, learning how they adapted to the harsh conditions. Many spoke of hardships, frailing livestock dying, but also of hope. One elderly farmer told her about planting seeds in memory of his ancestors, believing that even if nothing grew, the act itself was meaningful. Meanwhile, Emma focused on language patterns, noting how terms related to drought and famine had become part of everyday speech. She recorded stories passed down through generations, preserving fragments of culture that might otherwise disappear. Though her methods seemed abstract to the others, she insisted they were vital. Words matter, she said. They shape how people see the world. If we understand their perspective, we can better explain why change is necessary. As for Ryan, he proved invaluable in navigating the treacherous terrain. His piloting skills came in handy when they needed to reach remote locations quickly, and his knack for fixing equipment saved them more than once. Still, there was a distance between him and the rest of the team, as if he held himself apart intentionally. Alex noticed but decided not to press the issue for now. On their fourth day, strange things started happening. At night, eerie winds swept through the camp, carrying whispers that sounded almost human. Equipment malfunctioned without explanation, and shadows moved unnaturally in the corners of their vision. No one mentioned it openly, but the unease was palpable. One evening, as they gathered around a makeshift fire, Alex finally broke the silence. Has anyone else noticed? Anything unusual lately? Lara exchanged a glance with Emma, who nodded. Slightly, I've heard noises, Emma admitted. Like voices, but I can't make out what they're saying. Ryan shrugged, pretending nonchalance. Could just be the wind messing with us. This place plays tricks on your mind. Alex wasn't convinced. He remembered the debates during the hearing, how some council members hinted at forces beyond human control, influencing Earth's decline. Could there be truth to those claims? Or was it simply paranoia creeping in? Before anyone could say more, a sudden gust extinguished the fire, plunging them into darkness. For a moment, no one moved. Then, faintly, they heard it a low hum, growing louder, till it seemed to vibrate through their very bones. What the hell is that? Ryan demanded, his voice tense. No one answered. Instead, they stared into the night, hearts pounding as the hum faded into silence. Whatever it was, it left them shaken and more determined than ever to uncover the truth. By the time dawn broke, the strangeness had passed, leaving only questions behind. Yet, as they packed up to leave the outpost, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Something or someone was guiding them, whether they realized it or not. And deep down, he wondered if finding answers would bring salvation. something far worse. This completes part 2 of the story. Let me know if you'd like to proceed with additional sections. Part 3, the team's next destination was the Amazon basin, or what remained of it. Once a lush expanse of green stretching across continents, the rainforest now existed in scattered patches surrounded by barren wasteland. The journey there was long and grueling, the ship's engines groaning under the strain of navigating through increasingly unstable weather patterns. Storms lashed at the hull, and lightning illuminated the darkened skies like jagged scars. By the time they landed, everyone was tense. Their nerves frayed from the turbulence. As they stepped out into the humid air, the smell of decay hit them immediately. The ground beneath their boots was soft and spongy, littered with dead leaves and fallen branches. Towering trees loomed overhead, many of them stripped of their bark, their trunks blackened as if scorched by fire. It was hard to believe this place had once been called the lungs of the earth. Now it felt like a graveyard. "This is worse than I expected," Clara muttered, her voice heavy with sadness. She knelt to examine a patch of soil, running her fingers through the dry, cracked earth. "Nothing can grow here anymore. The ecosystem is completely broken." Emma nodded, her expression grim. "And without the forest, the people who depend on it are struggling too. Their languages, their traditions, they're disappearing along with the trees." Ryan adjusted the strap of his pack, scanning the horizon. "So where do we start? Looks like everything's already dead." Alex pointed toward a cluster of makeshift huts, visible in the distance. "There, that's where the eco-resistance fighters are based. They've been working to protect what's left of the forest. Maybe they can tell us more about what's happening here." When they reached the settlement, they were met with suspicion. A group of armed men and women emerged from the shadows, their faces painted with streaks of mud and ash. At their center stood Mia Torres, a fiery woman with piercing eyes and a commanding presence. Her hair was tied back in a tight braid, and she carried a machete slung over her shoulder. Though she appeared no older than 30, there was a hardness. To her, that suggested years of hardship. "Who are you?" she demanded, her tones sharp. Alex stepped forward, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "We're scientists. We're here to study the effects of climate change and gather evidence for the Galactic Council. We heard about your efforts to preserve the forest." Mia narrowed her eyes, studying him carefully. Then she turned her gaze to Clara, Emma, and Ryan, sizing them up one by one. Finally, she lowered her weapons slightly, but didn't relax. "You work for the Council? The same council that wants to label Earth a death world?" Clara hesitated before answering. "Not exactly. We're trying to convince them otherwise. But we need help understanding what's really going on here." Mia let out a bitter laugh. "What's going on is simple. Corporations strip the land bare, then leave when there's nothing left. Meanwhile, the Council sits up there in their shiny ships, pretending they care while they profit off our destruction. You think gathering data will change anything? It won't." Her words stung, but Alex refused to back down. "Maybe not, but doing nothing guarantees failure. If you want things to improve, you have to give us a chance." For a moment, Mia said nothing. Then, with a sigh, she gestured for them to follow her into the camp. "Fine. Stay if you want. Don't expect us to trust you." Inside the settlement, life was harsh but resilient. Children played among the huts, their laughter echoing faintly in the oppressive heat. Women cooked meals over open fires, using whatever ingredients they could scavenge. Men repaired tools and weapons, preparing for the constant threat of corporate raiders. Despite the bleakness, there was a sense of purpose and determination to fight back against forces far greater than themselves. Mia led them to a large tent at the center of the camp, where maps and charts covered the walls. She pointed to areas marked in red. These are the zones most affected by deforestation. Every day we lose more ground. The corporations send drones to monitor us, and sometimes they send mercenaries. We fight them off when we can, but it's getting harder. Emma studied the maps closely, her brow furrowed. "Why haven't you tried reaching out to the Council for support? Surely they'd intervene if they knew." "They know, Mia." Interrupted, her voice cold. "They don't care, as long as they get what they want. they'll turn a blind eye. Trust me, I've seen how this works. Clara exchanged a glance with Alex, unsure how to respond. Mia's anger was justified, but it made their task even more difficult. How could they argue for humanity's redemption when so many had given up hope? That night, the team sat around a small fire outside their tent, discussing what they'd learned. The resistance fighters had welcomed them cautiously, sharing food and stories. But the underlying tension was impossible to ignore. Ryan poked at the flames with a stick, his expression thoughtful. "She's got a point," he said after a long silence. "If the council really cared, they wouldn't let this happen. They'd step in before it got this bad." "But they don't," Clara replied, her voice tinged with frustration. "That's why we're here. To show them they can't ignore us anymore." Emma leaned forward, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I've been talking to some of the elders here. They say the forest used to speak to them, not literally, of course, but through signs and symbols. Changes in animal behavior, shifts in the wind. They believe the land itself is alive, that it reacts to what we do. Maybe that's why things feel off." Alex frowned. "Off how?" Emma hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Hard to explain, like something's watching us, or waiting." Her words sent a chill through the group. None of them wanted to admit it, but they'd all felt it too, the strange hum in the desert, the whispers in the wind. Whatever it was, it seemed to be following them. The next morning, Mia approached them with an offer. "There's a grove a few kilometers from here," she said. "It's one of the last untouched parts of the forest. If you're serious about helping, come see it for yourselves. But be warned, it's dangerous. Corporations know it's there, and they'll stop at nothing to destroy it." Despite the risk, the team agreed to go. Armed with supplies and escorted by a small group of fighters, they set out into the wilderness. The journey was treacherous, with thick vines blocking their path and hidden sinkholes threatening to swallow them whole. Yet, as they pushed deeper into the forest, the air began to change. It grew cooler, fresher, filled with the scent of damp, earth, and blooming flowers. When they finally reached the grove, it took their breath away. Towering trees formed a natural cathedral, their branches intertwining high above. Sunlight filtered through the canopy in golden beams, illuminating patches of vibrant green moss and delicate ferns. Birds chirped melodiously, and the sound of flowing water could be heard in the distance. It was a stark contrast to the devastation they'd seen elsewhere. "This is incredible," Clara whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. "How has it survived?" Mia smiled faintly. "Because we protect it, because it protects us." But as they explored further, they discovered something unsettling. Carved into the base of one of the largest trees was a series of strange symbols none of them recognized. Emma examined them closely, tracing the lines with her fingers. "This isn't human," she murmured. "It's ancient. Alien, maybe." Before anyone could respond, a loud crash echoed through the forest. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and a shadow passed overhead. Looking up, they saw a massive drone descending from the sky, its cameras trained directly. "On them, we've been spotted," Mia shouted, drawing her machete. "Everyone, move." Panic erupted as the team scrambled to escape. Shots rang out as the drone unleashed a barrage of projectiles, tearing through the trees. Leaves and bark rained down around them as they ran, dodging debris and leaping over roots. Behind them, the grove burned, consumed by flames that spread unnaturally fast. As they reached the edge of the forest, Alex glanced back one last time. Through the smoke and chaos, he thought he saw the symbols glowing faintly, pulsing with an eerie light. Then just as quickly, they vanished. "What the hell was that?" Ryan panted, clutching his side. No one answered. They didn't need to. Whatever those symbols meant, they knew one thing for certain. Earth's secrets ran far deeper than any of them had imagined, and uncovering them might cost them everything. This completes part 3 of the story. Let me know if you'd like to proceed with additional sections. Part 6, the days that followed were filled with a growing sense of unease. Alex and Clara worked tirelessly to piece together the fragments of data Emma had salvaged. Trouble. The team's movements felt like they were being shadow doors closing behind them when no one was there. It was as if the station itself was alive, watching and waiting. One evening, after another long day of analysis, Clara decided to take a break. She wandered to an observation deck overlooking Earth, her mind heavy with questions she couldn't answer. The planet hung silently below, its surface marred by scars, but still beautiful in its resilience. Her eyelids grew heavy, and before she knew it, she was asleep. Her dreams came quickly, vivid, and overwhelming. She found herself standing in a vast, endless field under a sky painted in swirling colors she'd never seen before. In the distance, a figure approached a shapeless, shifting form that seemed to pulse with energy. Its presence was both comforting and terrifying, filling her with a mix of awe and dread. "You seek answers," the figure said, its voice echoing not in her ears, but in her mind. "Yet you fear what you will find." Clara tried to speak, but no words came out. Instead, images flooded her consciousness, Earth's past, present, and possible futures. She saw civilizations rising and falling, planets thriving and dying, all connected by invisible threads that wove through time and space. The figure gestured toward these threads, and Clara realized they represented something deeper: thresholds. Limits that once crossed could not be undone. The cycles repeat, the figure continued. Worlds are tested, and those who fail are forgotten. Your world stands at the edge. Do you rise or fall? Clara wanted to ask more, to demand clarity, but the dream began to fade. Just as she felt herself slipping away, a final message echoed in her mind: seek the truth hidden within the artifact. Her heart raced as she struggled to separate reality from the lingering haze of the dream. Had it been real, or just her subconscious processing everything they'd discovered? She returned to their quarters, where Alex and Emma were reviewing the alien logs. Ryan sat nearby, cleaning his Wepana habit he'd picked up whenever stress got the better of him. When Clara entered, Alex looked up, concern etched on his face. "You okay? You look pale?" "I'm fine," she replied, though her tone suggested otherwise. "I need to tell you something." They gathered around the table as Clara recounted her dream in detail. At first, the others listened skeptically, exchanging wary glances. But as she described the vision of interconnected worlds and the cryptic warnings, their expressions shifted. "Familiar," Emma said slowly. "Some ancient myths describe encounters like this, vision sent by entities tied to nature or the cosmos. If this is real, it could mean Earth itself is trying to communicate." Alex leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "It told me to trust only those bound by purpose. I think it means we're not supposed to rely on the counselor. Anyone else who doesn't share our goal?" Ryan exhaled sharply. "Great, so now we're taking advice from a dream." "It's not just a dream," Clara insisted. "Think about it. The symbols, the hums, the shadows, it's all connected. Whatever's guiding us knows more than we do." Emma tapped her tablet thoughtfully. "If the artifact holds the key, we need to go back. Maybe there's more to uncover." Alex hesitated, weighing the risks. Returning to the Arctic meant defying the Council explicitly and possibly putting themselves in greater danger. But if the artifact truly contained answers, it might be their only chance. "All right," he said finally. "We'll go, but we move carefully. No mistakes this time." The journey back to the Arctic was tense. Security patrols on the orbital station had increased, and the team took extra precautions to avoid detection. They used a small, unmarked shuttle borrowed from Mia's resistance fighters, cloaked to evade sensors. As they descended through the icy atmosphere, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that they were being followed. Shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, and the hum she'd heard before grew louder, almost deafening. When they arrived at the alien structure, the air felt different, charged, electric. The entrance glistened faintly, as if anticipating their return. Sighed. The walls pulsed with light, casting eerie patterns across the floor. The team moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Emma led the way to the central chamber, where the pedestal still stood. She placed her hands on its surface, tracing the symbols with her fingers. These aren't just instructions, she murmured. They're coordinates. Locations scattered across Earth. Coordinates for what? Ryan asked. I don't know yet, Emma admitted. But they're marked by similar energy signatures, like pieces of a puzzle. If we can find these places, maybe we can unlock the full message. Before they could discuss further, the room shuddered violently. A low rumble echoed through the structure, and cracks began to form in the walls. What's happening? Alex shouted over the noise. We triggered something! Emma yelled back, panic rising in her voice. As they ran toward the exit, the hum intensified, vibrating through their bones. Behind them, the pedestal erupted in a burst of light, sending shards of energy spiraling outward. The symbols on the walls flared brightly, then dimmed, leaving the chamber eerily silent. Once outside, the team collapsed onto the snow, catching their breath. The structure loomed above them, its glow fading, but still visible beneath the ice. Whatever they had awakened, it wasn't finished with them. Back aboard the shuttle, they reviewed the coordinates Emma had copied from the pedestal. Each location corresponded to a site of ecological significance, areas where humanity's impact had been most severe. There was the Amazon basin, the Sahara Desert, and several others spread across continents. Connecting the dots revealed a pattern, a global network linking Earth's most vulnerable regions. This isn't random, Alex said, pointing to the map. Whoever built this chose these spots deliberately. They wanted us to see the damage and maybe fix it. Clara nodded, her thoughts returning to the dream. Or judge us for it. Ryan frowned. Judged by who? Aliens? Some cosmic force? This keeps getting weirder. Emma shook her head. Maybe it's not about judgment, maybe it's about guidance. Showing us what we've done so we can change. As the shuttle soared through the sky, the team fell silent, each lost in their own thoughts. They had uncovered more pieces of the puzzle, but the bigger picture remained elusive. One thing was clear. Earth's fate rested not only on their shoulders, but also on forces far beyond their understanding. Somewhere in the depths of space, unseen observers watched the tiny blue planet spin silently in its orbit. Whether humanity would rise to meet the challenge or succumb to its own failures remained unwritten. For now, the thread of possibility still held firm, trembling in the balance. This completes part 6 of the story. Let me know if you'd like to proceed with additional sections. Part 5. The flight back from the Arctic was quiet, each member of the team lost in their own thoughts. The discovery of the alien structure had shaken them to their core, and the implications weighed heavily on their minds. Alex stared out. The window at the endless expanse of white below, his mind replaying the holographic projections they'd seen. Clara sat beside him, her tablet glowing faintly as she reviewed the data they'd collected. Ryan piloted the ship with uncharacteristic silence, his usual easygoing demeanor replaced by a tense focus. Emma, meanwhile, pored over translations of the alien logs, her brow furrowed in concentration. As the hours passed, the tension in the cabin grew palpable. Finally, Ryan broke the silence. All right, he said, his voice low but firm. I need to say something. Everyone turned to look at him, surprised by the seriousness in his tone. What is it? Alex asked cautiously. Ryan hesitated, then sighed. I've been getting messages. From someone inside the council, the revelation hit like a shockwave. Clara's eyes widened, and Alex leaned forward, disbelief written across his face. Messages? What kind of messages? Ryan glanced at the controls, avoiding eye contact. Warnings. They told me not to trust anyone, not even you guys. Said the council has plans for Earth that don't involve saving it. Emma frowned. Plans? What does that mean? I don't know all the details, Ryan admitted, but it seems like there are factions within the council arguing about whether Earth should be preserved or abandoned completely. Some want to strip it of resources before cutting it loose. What? Others think it's too dangerous to keep around at all. Clara shook her head, struggling to process what she was hearing. Why would they do that? Why wouldn't they just let us prove we can fix things? Because power doesn't work like that, Ryan replied bitterly. It's not about fixing problems, it's about controlling them. If the Council decides Earth is a threat, they'll act fast to neutralize it. Alex clenched his fists, frustration bubbling inside him. So everything we're doing, everything we've risked, is pointless unless we figure out who's pulling the strings. Not necessarily, Ryan said. Whoever sent me those messages wants me to stop them, or at least expose them. But I didn't tell you sooner because, well, I wasn't sure who to trust. His confession hung in the air, heavy and unsettling. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Clara leaned back in her seat, rubbing her temples. This changes everything, she murmured. If the Council is divided and if some members want Earth destroyed, we have to tread carefully. One wrong move could ruin everything. Looked up from her notes, her expression troubled. And now we know there's someone feeding information to Ryan. That means leaks exist. Maybe others are working against the Council too. Alex nodded slowly, piecing things together. Which means we're not alone. There might be allies willing to help us, if we can find them. When they returned to the orbital station, the atmosphere felt different. The usually bustling corridors were eerily quiet, and the staff seemed unusually busy, whispering urgently among themselves. As the team made their way to their quarters, they noticed security patrols moving through the halls more frequently than before. Something was happening, though none of them knew exactly what. Later that evening, Alex and Clara met in a private conference room to review their findings. Spread across the table were photos of the alien structure, translated logs, and maps, highlighting areas of ecological recovery. Clara tapped a finger on one of the images. We need to decide how much of this we share with the Council, she said. If they're planning to sabotage our efforts, giving them too much information could make things worse. Alex nodded. Agreed. But we also can't hide everything. Without proof, they'll dismiss us outright, before they could continue. There was a knock at the door. Ryan entered, followed closely by Emma. Both looked uneasy. We've got a problem, Ryan said without preamble. What is it? Clara asked, immediately alert. The equipment we brought back from the Arctic's malfunctioning, Emma explained. Some of the samples are deteriorating, and the data files are corrupted. It's like something's deliberately erasing. Them, Clara's heart sank. Sabotage. It's possible, Ryan replied grimly. I checked the logs. Someone accessed our storage unit while we were gone. Alex stood abruptly, pacing the room. If they're targeting our evidence, they must know we found something important. Need to secure what's left before it's too late. Nodded. I'll go through the logs again. Maybe I can recover some of the data. And I'll talk to Lena, Clara added, referring to the biologist they'd worked with in the Sahara. She might have backup copies of the soil and water samples. Ryan crossed his arms. In the meantime, we watch our backs. Whoever's behind this isn't playing games. The next day, tensions reached a breaking point. During a routine meeting with Counselor Vera, Alex and Clara presented their preliminary findings, careful to omit any mention of the alien structure. The counselor listened intently, her expression unreadable. When they finished, she leaned forward, steepling. Her fingers. Interesting, she said coolly, but incomplete. You'll need more concrete evidence if you hope to sway the council's decision. We understand, Alex replied, forcing himself to remain calm. We're working on gathering additional data. Vera raised an eyebrow. See that you? Do. Time is running out. After the meeting, Clara pulled Alex aside. Did you notice anything strange? She asked quietly. He nodded. Yeah, she already knew about the Arctic. She didn't ask how we ended up there, which means someone tipped her off. Clara frowned. Then we're being watched. Every move we make is being monitored. Back in their quarters, the team regrouped to discuss their next steps. Emma had managed to salvage fragments of the corrupted data enough to piece together. Part of the alien message, the symbols hinted at a warning. Thresholds breached. Cycles repeat. It was cryptic, but it reinforced their growing suspicion that Earth's fate was tied to a larger pattern, one the Council might not fully understand. We need to confront them, Clara said firmly. Show them what we've found and demand answers. Ryan shook his head. That's risky. If we accuse them outright, they'll shut us down completely. Then we play it smart, Alex countered. We leak the information ourselves. If the public learns about this, the council won't have a choice but to respond. Emma hesitated. Are we ready for that? Going public could put everyone in danger, including the resistance fighters. It's a gamble, Alex admitted. But it's the only way to level the playing field. Can't fight this alone. That night, as the station drifted silently above Earth, Alex found himself staring out a viewport at the planet below. Its surface glowed faintly in the darkness, a fragile orb suspended in the vastness of space. I guess. He thought about the alien. Structure, the symbols, and the warnings etched into its walls. Whatever force had placed it there had done so with purpose to guide, to warn, or perhaps to judge. Behind him, Clara joined him at the window. Do you think we're doing the right thing? She asked softly. Alex sighed. I don't know. But I do know one thing. Humanity has always faced challenges. This is just another test. Whether we pass it depends on whether we're willing to face the truth even when it hurts. Clara nodded, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon. Then, let's hope we're ready. Unbeknownst to them, somewhere deep within the council chambers, Victor Long, the same official who had questioned their motives during the fun initial hearing, watched a live feed of their conversation. His lips curled into a thin smile as he tapped a command into his console. The screen went dark, and he leaned back in his chair, satisfied. Time to clean up loose ends. Let me know if you'd like to proceed with additional sections.